Tonight, Newark's Prudential Center was alive for UFC 316, its electric atmosphere pulsing with anticipation as fans from all over the world gathered for one of the most highly anticipated events of the year. This wasn't just any fight. It was a rematch for the coveted Bantamweight Championship, a clash that had the entire MMA community buzzing for weeks. The reigning champion, Merab Dvalishvili, prepared to defend his hard-earned title against the man he once dethroned, the dynamic and unpredictable SeanO'Malley, whose striking and charisma had made him a fan favorite. In their first encounter, Merab's relentless wrestling and suffocating pace overwhelmed O'Malley, earning Merab a decisive victory and the championship belt, while leaving O'Malley searching for answers. For O'Malley, that loss was a humbling wake-up call, a moment that forced him to reevaluate his approach and reignite his hunger for greatness. For Merab, it was the culmination of years of sacrifice, discipline, and unwavering belief in his abilities. This rematch was more than a fight. It was O'Malley's shot at redemption, a chance to prove he could adapt and overcome, and Merab's opportunity to show the world that his reign was no fluke, but the beginning of a new era. The build-up was intense, with both fighters trading words and promises. Could O'Malley finally solve the puzzle of Merab's relentless pressure and grappling dominance, or would Merab's incredible winning streak continue, further cementing his legacy as one of the most dominant bantamweights in UFC history? The future of the bantamweight division hung in the balance, with fans and pundits passionately debating every possible outcome, every strength and weakness, every strategy that could tip the scales. Backstage, both fighters were locked in, their focus razor-sharp, knowing this was a battle of wills as much as skill, a test of heart, preparation, and mental fortitude. O'Malley, usually flamboyant and playful, was all business tonight. Merab, stoic and unflinching, looked every bit the champion ready for war. Newark buzzed with anticipation, the arena lights shining down on a stage set for legacy, as thousands of fans held their breath for what was about to unfold. Two rivals, one belt, and a night that would define the division. The octagon awaited, ready to crown a champion and etch a new chapter in UFC history. Merab Dvalishvili, known to fans as the Machine, entered the arena as the undisputed bantamweight king, his reputation built on an unbreakable spirit and tireless work ethic. He was riding an incredible 12-fight win streak, a feat that set him apart in one of the UFC's most competitive divisions. Merab's journey to the top was anything but easy. He forged his path through sheer grit and determination, defeating former champions like Peter Yan and Jose Aldo with relentless pressure, suffocating pace, and world-class wrestling that left opponents gasping for answers. Hailing from the proud nation of Georgia, Merab's toughness and relentless drive became his trademarks, inspiring fans back home and around the world. He seized the belt from O'Malley with a flawless game plan, executing every move with precision. Then, he defended it against the dangerous Umar Nurmagomedov, cementing his status as a true champion and silencing any remaining doubters. For Merab, this rematch was about more than just another title defense. It was about legacy. He wanted to prove to the world that his first victory was no accident, but the result of years of sacrifice and dedication. He trained with elite partners, pushing his limits every single day, confident that his relentless pace and iron will would break any challenger who dared to stand across from him. O'Malley's improvements were expected, but Merab believed his own evolution, his constant drive to get better, would be the difference in this high-stakes battle. The champion's focus was singular: impose his will, silence the doubters, and extend his reign at the very top of the division. Tonight, Merab aimed to show the world why he's called the Machine, and why the coveted belt belonged around his waist. The pressure was immense, but Merab thrived in the fire, feeding off the energy of the moment and the challenge ahead. As the octagon doors closed, the champion stood ready, prepared to defend his legacy and prove once again that he was truly relentless. SeanO'Malley, known to fans as the Sugar Show, entered the arena as the challenger, driven by a hunger for redemption that burned brighter than ever before. The energy in the air was electric, every eye fixed on him as he walked with purpose, determined to rewrite his legacy. O'Malley's rise was meteoric. His creative striking, unpredictable movement, and knockout power made him a fan favorite. His highlight reel finishes and magnetic charisma turned him into a superstar, captivating audiences around the world and making every fight a must-see event. But losing the belt to Merab was a humbling setback. The defeat exposed critical holes in his grappling game and forced O'Malley to confront his weaknesses head-on, shaking his confidence and making him question his approach. Over the next 9 months, O'Malley dedicated himself to transformation. He underwent hip surgery, quit marijuana to sharpen his focus, and completely overhauled his training regimen. Every day was a test of discipline and willpower as he rebuilt his body and mind from the ground up. This rematch meant everything: a chance to prove he'd evolved, to reclaim the title that once defined him, and to silence critics who doubted his heart. The pressure was immense, but so was the opportunity to show the world a new version of himself. O'Malley's focus shifted from showmanship to substance. Gone were the flashy colors. He walked out with his natural hair, a new walkout song, and a more serious, determined demeanor. He was no longer just an entertainer. He was a man on a mission. He poured hours into wrestling defense, believing that if he could keep the fight standing, his striking would give him the edge. Every sprawl, every drill was a step toward redemption. For O'Malley, this was about more than a belt. It was about rewriting his story, conquering his toughest challenge, and proving to himself and the world that he could rise after falling. The stakes were crystal clear: redemption or repeat defeat. The crowd felt the tension, knowing history was about to be made. The challenger was ready to risk it all, leaving nothing to chance as he stepped toward the octagon, eyes locked on his destiny. The cage door shut, and O'Malley's quest for redemption began, one final test to define his legacy. For both men, this fight was about more than gold. For Merab, a second win would cement his dominance and validate his grinding style. For O'Malley, victory meant redemption and proof of his evolution. The stakes were massive. A win for Merab would send a message to all contenders: wrestling rules this division. An O'Malley win would revive hope for strikers and shake up the title picture. This was the classic striker versus grappler clash, a battle of philosophies as much as skills. The winner would define the division's future and validate their approach to the sport. The pressure was immense. This was a fight for legacy, style, and the soul of the bantamweights. The world watched, knowing history was about to be written. The moment of truth had arrived. As the main event neared, the Prudential Center buzzed with anticipation. O'Malley walked out first, focused, composed, signaling a new chapter. The crowd's energy was electric as he entered the cage. Then Merab began his walk, draped in the Georgian flag, eyes locked on the octagon. Suddenly chaos erupted. A security barrier collapsed, fans spilling onto Merab's path. Security and officials rushed to restore order, but Merab stayed calm, unfazed by the commotion. The champion's composure under pressure was on full display. The incident echoed past UFC walkout mishaps, a reminder of the unpredictable energy of fight night. With order restored, Merab entered the cage, focus unbroken. The brief chaos only heightened the tension. Now nothing stood between the fighters and destiny. The cage door closed. 2 warriors, 1 prize. The war was about to begin. The opening bell rang, and the fight's central question was answered early. O'Malley moved well, using reach and footwork to keep Merab at bay, landing sharp jabs and leg kicks. But Merab's pressure was relentless. He cut off the cage, forcing O'Malley to work. Early takedown attempts were stuffed, but Merab chained his attacks, never letting O'Malley rest. Eventually, Merab dragged O'Malley to the mat, making him expend precious energy to scramble up. The champion dictated the pace, grinding O'Malley against the fence and sapping his gas tank. O'Malley landed a few clean shots, but spent most of the round defending. Merab's control was clear. Even when takedowns failed, he owned the octagon. By round's end, the pattern was set. Merab's pressure, O'Malley's defense, and a grueling pace. The champion was making O'Malley fight his fight. The crowd sensed déjà vu. The next round loomed. Round 2 began, and Merab wasted no time closing the distance. O'Malley's plan to strike from range unraveled as Merab secured an early takedown. On the ground, Merab's top control was suffocating. Short punches, elbows, and constant pressure. O'Malley tried to scramble, but Merab was always a step ahead, dragging him back down. The challenger's energy faded as Merab advanced position, moving to side control and mount. O'Malley's striking was neutralized. He was trapped in Merab's world. Ground and pound rained down, and O'Malley's only goal became survival. The referee watched closely as Merab poured on the pressure. The bell saved O'Malley from a possible stoppage, but the damage was clear. Merab's dominance was growing, and O'Malley looked exhausted. The champion was in complete control. The fight was slipping away from the challenger. Round 3 awaited. The third round began with urgency from O'Malley, but his movements were labored. Merab easily avoided a desperate head kick and shot for another takedown, slamming O'Malley to the mat. On the ground, Merab passed guard and hunted for a finish. O'Malley tried to escape, but Merab seized the opening, locking in a rear naked choke. The squeeze was tight. O'Malley fought the hands, but there was no escape. With his air cut off, O'Malley tapped. The referee intervened. Merab had finished the fight by submission. The champion erupted in celebration, having left no doubt. Merab's performance was a masterclass, relentless, technical, and definitive. He had dominated the division's most dangerous striker twice. This win cemented his legacy as a truly great champion. The era of the machine was undeniable. The bantamweight throne remained his. With this emphatic win, Merab Dvalishvili's reign was unchallenged. 13 straight victories, a new submission threat, and a message sent to all contenders. The division now revolved around his relentless wrestling and evolving skill set. O'Malley, though improved, was left searching for answers and a path back to the top. The bantamweight landscape shifted. Future challengers would need answers for the machine. New matchups beckoned, with contenders like Corey Sandhagen waiting in the wings. UFC 316 delivered a defining main event, Merab's dominance, O'Malley's heart, and a division forever changed. As the champion celebrated and the challenger regrouped, the sport moved forward. New stories would emerge, but for now, Merab stood alone atop the mountain. The era of the machine continued. The bantamweight division had its king, and the world had witnessed greatness.